The moss-covered rocks of Kepler 442c glistened under the amber light of its distant sun. Massive fern trees swayed in the thick atmosphere, their shadows dancing across the forest floor like spirits of forgotten worlds. In this primordial landscape, Rhea Kethvar moved with predatory grace, her midnight blue scales shifting color slightly with each careful step. Her elongated pupils contracted as she scanned the clearing ahead. 3 months of tracking across 4 star systems had led her here. Anticipation tingled along her spine, where specialized sensory organs detected the faintest changes in air pressure and electromagnetic fields. This hunt would cement her reputation among the Cathbar elite, if she succeeded. Rhea checked her tactical display once more, confirming the trail markers she'd been following since the Centauri system. Most prey ran blindly, leaving chaotic patterns and obvious traces. But not this one. This human moved with purpose, sometimes doubling back, sometimes vanishing completely before reappearing light years away. He was testing her, and she loved it. The target's name was Cody Brennan, former Terran Special Forces. Later a scientist with some classified project she couldn't access in the galactic database. Her employer hadn't shared why they wanted him captured, but the bounty spoke volumes. Enough platinum credits to buy a small moon. Rhea crouched near a massive tree trunk, her specialized vision picking up heat signatures ahead in a small clearing. A simple camp, 1 tent, 1 heat source. Her tongue flicked out, tasting molecules in the air that confirmed recent human activity. Too easy. After such an elaborate chase, she expected more resistance. She moved closer, her adaptive camouflage bending light around her lithe form. 15 meters from the tent. She paused. Something felt wrong. The clearing was too perfectly positioned, the camp too deliberately placed. Then, she heard it. A calm, commanding voice from inside the tent. "You might as well come out. I've been waiting for you." Rhea froze. Prey didn't invite predators to reveal themselves. Prey ran, hid, fought when cornered. This wasn't normal. She remained motionless, analyzing possibilities. 3 months is a long time to play cat and mouse, the voice continued. I'm impressed you followed me through the Barnard Star Nebula. Most would have lost my trail there. Her hand moved to the neural disruptor at her hip. This had to be a trap, but curiosity compelled her forward. In 15 years of hunting, she'd never encountered prey that spoke to her before the chase had even begun. If you wanted to capture me, the voice said, you would have tried by now. So I'm guessing you have questions. Come in. Cathbar. Let's talk. Rhea's scales bristled. How did he know her species? Her employers were discreet, her identity protected by layers of encryption and proxies. Yet this human spoke as if he'd been expecting her specifically. She moved forward, neural disruptor drawn, approaching the tent from an angle that gave her maximum visibility and escape routes. The fabric door flapped open, revealing a man sitting cross-legged on a simple mat. Cody Brennan was nothing like she expected. His file described a military man, but the person before her had the calm demeanor of a philosopher. His dark hair was longer than in his military photos, with streaks of gray at the temples. Sharp blue eyes studied her with what appeared to be fascination rather than fear. Fascinating, he said, confirming her observation. The Cathbar morphology is even more remarkable in person. Your adaptive coloration is responding to the tent's interior lighting. Rhea kept her weapon trained on him. Stand up, slowly. You're coming with me. Am I? He smiled, remaining seated. Before we begin that part of our relationship, I think we should establish some facts. Primarily, that General Hadron Cross has hired you under false pretenses. Rhea's inner eyelids flicked, a Cathbar tell of surprise she immediately regretted showing. I don't discuss my contracts. Understandable. Professional ethics and all that, Brennan nodded. But what if I told you that your contract isn't for capture, but assassination. That the moment you bring me in alive, you become a liability yourself. A shiver ran down her sensory ridge. Rhea maintained her composure, but her mind raced. Double crosses weren't uncommon in her line of work, but something in the human's confident demeanor suggested he wasn't bluffing. "You have 30 seconds to give me a reason not to stun you and collect my bounty," she said, finger tensing on the trigger. Brennan reached slowly into his pocket, telegraphing his movements deliberately. He withdrew a small data crystal, its surface glimmering with encoded information. "This contains everything about Project Mindbridge, the reason Cross wants me dead. It also contains financial transfers proving he's hired 3 other hunters before you. None of them reported back." He placed the crystal on the ground between them. "I've been leading you here because you're the best, and I need the best." "Need me for what?" Rhea kept her weapon steady. "To help me stay alive long enough to present this evidence to the Galactic Council." His eyes locked with hers. "And to give you the biggest hunt of your career. Not me, but General Cross himself." Rhea's mind calculated possibilities, risks, rewards. "Why should I believe you?" "You shouldn't. Not yet." Brennan stood slowly. "That's why I've prepared a series of challenges. If you can pass them, you'll have proof of everything I've claimed. If you can't..." He shrugged. "Then I suppose Cross gets what he wants after all." "Challenges?" Rhea's interest was piqued, despite her professional caution. 3 tests to prove whether you're as good as your reputation. Follow me, if you dare." With surprising speed, Brennan ducked past her and out of the tent. Instinctively, Rhea fired her disruptor, but he was already gone, vanished into the dense undergrowth of the alien forest. She cursed in her native tongue, a harsh sound that scattered nearby flying creatures. The hunt was on, but the roles had somehow shifted. She was still the predator, but for the first time in her career, Rhea felt a disturbing sensation, as if she were also being hunted. She moved through the forest with practiced efficiency, following the trail Brennan had deliberately left for her. It led upward, toward a ridgeline that separated the valley from what her topographical scans suggested was a deep ravine. The first challenge became apparent as she reached the ridge. A narrow stone bridge spanned a chasm so deep that its bottom was lost in mist. Brennan stood on the other side, arms crossed. "Ancient structure," he called across the gap. "Pre-colonial. Probably religious significance to whatever species evolved here before us. Beautiful craftsmanship." Rhea approached the bridge cautiously, scanning for traps or weaknesses. The stone looked weathered but solid. "I wouldn't trust those scanner readings," Brennan advised. "Kepler 442c has unusual mineral compositions that play havoc with standard scanning tech." Rhea took a tentative step onto the bridge. It held. Another step, still solid. She moved forward with growing confidence. Halfway across, she heard a subtle click beneath her foot. Instinct took over as the ancient stones began to crumble. She lunged forward, propelling herself with the powerful muscles of her legs. The bridge collapsed behind her, sections falling into the abyss as she raced toward the far side. The final section gave way, just as she leaped, her body stretching through the air in a desperate bid for survival. Her clawed hand caught the edge of the cliff, her body slamming against the rock face with bone-jarring force. She hung there, one-handed, looking up to see Brennan standing above her. He watched with clinical interest, making no move to help. Using her extraordinary strength, Rhea pulled herself up, rolling onto solid ground and immediately taking a defensive posture. "Impressive," Brennan said. "Most wouldn't have reacted fast enough. The pressure plate was calibrated precisely. Any slower or faster, and you'd have missed the timing." "You tried to kill me," Rhea hissed, scales darkening with anger. "If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have placed the trigger plate where it gave you optimal reaction time." He turned and began walking along a narrow path that wound up the mountainside. 1 challenge down, 2 to go. Rhea considered shooting him in the back, The disruptor had enough range, but something held her finger. Curiosity, perhaps, or professional respect. Either way, she followed, her senses hyper-alert for the next trap. The path led to a narrow canyon, walls rising 50 meters on either side. Brennan stood at the entrance, waiting. "The rules are simple," he said as she approached. "Reach the other end without being detected by the defense systems." "What defense systems?" Rhea asked, scanning the canyon walls. "That would be telling," Brennan smiled. "But I'll give you a hint. They're not mine. This canyon is riddled with automated security left by mineral prospectors. They're old, but still functional." "And if I'm detected?" "Plasma mines. Quite unpleasant." He gestured toward the canyon. "After you." Rhea studied the terrain. The obvious path through the center would be the most exposed. The walls offered handholds but would be slow-going. Time to think like prey instead of predator. She noticed small indentations along the base of the canyon wall, drainage channels from the periodic rains that must sweep through this region. Too small for a human, but perfect for her more flexible Cathbar physiology. Without a word, she dropped to her belly and slithered into the narrow space, using her claws to pull herself forward when the channel narrowed. Her scales scraped against stone as she navigated the tight passage, senses straining for any sign of detection devices. Halfway through, her shoulder bumped a protruding rock, dislodging it with a soft clatter. Instantly, a scanning beam swept across the main canyon floor. Had she taken the obvious route, she would have been instantly detected. After 20 minutes of claustrophobic crawling, she emerged from the channel at the far end of the canyon. Brennan was already there, sitting on a boulder, inspecting his fingernails with casual indifference. "Clever," he said without looking up. "Using the drainage system. I didn't account for Cathbar flexibility." "You've never hunted my kind," Rhea observed. "You know our biology but not our capabilities." "True enough." He stood. "Final challenge, follow me." He led her to the mouth of a cave, its entrance partially concealed by hanging vines. The darkness within seemed absolute, swallowing the twilight of the planet's lengthening day. "Inside is a chamber containing everything you need to know about why General Cross wants me dead." Brennan handed her a small device. "This will guide you to it, but I should warn you. The cave system dampens all external communication and scanning. You'll be going in blind." Rhea took the device, examining it carefully for sabotage. "And you?" "I'll be right behind you." He gestured toward the cave. "Trust has to start somewhere." "Trust is for prey," Rhea replied. But she entered the cave, nonetheless, activating her enhanced vision to penetrate the darkness. The passageway twisted downward, narrowing in places before opening into larger chambers filled with strange crystalline formations that cast prismatic reflections from her light source. The device in her hand pulsed softly, directing her deeper into the labyrinth. She heard Brennan's footsteps behind her, maintaining a respectful distance. The hunter in her noted all possible ambush points, escape routes, defensive positions. Yet something else, something unfamiliar, stirred within her. Curiosity beyond the professional interest of a predator. What drove this human to such elaborate measures? What truth could be worth this game? The passage opened into a vast underground chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness despite her enhanced vision. The floor was relatively flat, covered in a mosaic of what appeared to be ancient tiles. At the center stood a simple pedestal with a display terminal. "The heart of the matter," Brennan said, stepping past her toward the pedestal. "What do you know about neural interface technology?" "Standard equipment," Rhea replied, following cautiously. "Used throughout galactic space for everything from education to entertainment. And military applications. Neural command of weapon systems, field intelligence, tactical networking." She shrugged. "Nothing revolutionary." "What if I told you General Cross has developed a way to use neural interfaces to override individual autonomy? to turn any being with a standard implant into an unwitting agent. Ria's scales rippled with disbelief. Impossible. Neural interfaces have biological safeguards. Had safeguards. Brennan activated the terminal. A holographic display flickered to life, showing complex neural mapping and code sequences. Project MindBridge bypasses those safeguards. I know because I helped design it, before I understood what Cross intended to use it for. Ria studied the display, her specialized training allowing her to grasp the implications. With this, Cross could control key figures throughout galactic space: council members, military leaders, corporate executives. Exactly. Brennan's face was grim. When I discovered the true purpose, I tried to shut it down through proper channels. That's when the first hunter came for me. I've been running ever since, gathering evidence, preparing for the moment I could bring this to light. Why me? Ria asked, circling the terminal, still wary of traps. Why lead me here instead of killing me like the others? Because your file showed something the others lacked. You've turned down contracts before, ones that violated your personal code. You're a predator. Yes, but one with principles. His eyes met hers. And because your cybernetic enhancements are custom Cathbar tech, not standard galactic issue, you can't be controlled through MindBridge. Ria absorbed this information, mentally reviewing her contract terms. There had been unusual clauses about delivery protocols, ones that would have left her vulnerable after handing over Brennan. You said this was my final challenge. What am I being tested on? Your judgment. Brennan gestured around the chamber. Everything I've told you is verifiable with that terminal. The question is, what will you do with this information? Complete your contract? Or help me stop Cross before MindBridge goes live across galactic space? Ria approached the terminal, her clawed fingers navigating the interface with practiced precision. The data matched Brennan's claims, project specifications, communications between Cross and military contractors, test results showing successful control of subjects. Most damning were records of 3 previous hunters, all eliminated after reporting successful captures of targets who later died in custody. As she read, a notification appeared on her tactical display, a message from her employer. The terms had changed. Brennan was to be eliminated, not captured. The bounty had doubled. Your employer just changed the contract, Brennan observed, noting her reaction. Let me guess, kill order instead of capture? Ria closed the terminal interface. Why bring me all this way? Why the elaborate challenges? To prove I wasn't lying. For one. Brennan stepped closer, his lack of fear remarkable for prey facing a predator. And to show you I could have killed you 3 times over, if that had been my intention. The bridge, the canyon, this cave, all designed to prove both my claims and my capabilities. This chamber, Ria said, realization dawning. It's a killing box, isn't it? Brennan nodded. One way in, no communications. Perfect for an ambush. If I were Cross's agent, you'd already be dead. The pieces aligned in Ria's mind. The contract, the evidence, the tests. Cross wanted Brennan dead because he knew too much. And afterward, he'd want Ria dead for the same reason. What's your plan? She asked finally. Decision made. Relief washed over Brennan's features. Upload the evidence to the Galactic Council through a secure channel that can't be blocked. Force an emergency session where Cross can't silence the witnesses. And those witnesses are? Maria Vasquez, a journalist whose sister Elena was killed in early MindBridge tests. She has the political connections to ensure the council listens. He paused. And us, if we survive long enough to testify. Ria's tactical mind was already calculating scenarios. Cross will have this planet under surveillance. The moment we transmit anything, he'll send strike teams. That's why we're not transmitting from here. Brennan pointed to another passageway, leading deeper into the cave system. There's a subterranean river 2 kilometers that way. It emerges near a communications relay station, abandoned by the original survey team. Old tech, but still functional, and not on any current maps. You've thought this through, Rhea admitted, impressed despite herself. I've had 3 months and 3 dead hunters to refine my plan. His expression darkened. What I haven't had is someone skilled enough to help me execute it. A distant rumble interrupted their conversation, vibrating through the stone beneath their feet. That's not geological, Rhea said, head tilting as her sensory ridge detected subtle changes in air pressure. No, Brennan's face hardened. That's a tactical insertion ship breaking atmosphere. Seems Cross got impatient waiting for your confirmation. We need to move. Rhea's training took over. Now. They raced through the new passageway. Brennan surprisingly agile for a human as he navigated the treacherous terrain. The tunnel descended sharply, the air growing damper as they approached the underground river. How did they find us? Rhea asked as they ran. I disabled all tracking on my ship. Mind bridge, Brennan replied grimly. Cross must have activated it in someone close to you. Your handler, your contact, someone who knew your destination. The implications chilled her. Anyone with a standard neural implant could be compromised. The pool of potential enemies was virtually limitless. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, where a swift black river cut through ancient stone. The roar of water echoed off the walls, nearly drowning their voices. We follow it downstream, Brennan shouted over the noise. There's a narrow ledge along the western wall. They moved along the treacherous path, the darkness broken only by bioluminescent fungi that cast an eerie blue glow across the rushing water. Behind them, faint sounds of pursuit reached Rhea's sensitive hearing. Boots on stone, the metallic click of weapons being readied. Strike team, she confirmed. 12, maybe 15 operatives. Moving fast. Brennan nodded grimly. The water masks are heat signatures, but they'll have motion trackers. I can handle motion trackers. Rhea removed a small device from her utility belt, activating it with practiced efficiency. Cathbar countermeasures, creates false readings, confuses their systems. Buying us time, Brennan acknowledged. But we need more than time. We need a diversion. They reached a narrowing in the cavern, where the river disappeared into a low tunnel, the ceiling barely a meter above the water's surface. The relay station is on the other side of that, Brennan explained. But we'll have to swim. Rhea calculated quickly. The strike team will expect us to take this route. They'll position shooters at the exit. Unless they're busy dealing with a cave-in. Brennan produced a small package from inside his jacket. Plasma charges, military grade. I've prepared contingencies throughout these caves. This section is geologically unstable. A targeted explosion will bring down enough rock to block their pursuit without collapsing the entire system. You'll trap us on the other side, Rhea observed. There are other ways out. Longer, but safer. He began placing the charges at strategic points along the cavern walls. I'll need 3 minutes to set these properly. You have 2, Rhea replied, drawing her disruptor and taking position at a bend in the path where she could monitor their back trail. Then we swim. Brennan worked with practiced efficiency, placing each charge with careful precision. Meanwhile, Rhea's enhanced senses detected the strike team drawing closer, the subtle vibrations of their footsteps, the faint metallic smell of their weapons. They're coming faster than expected, she warned. 60 seconds. Almost done. Brennan attached the final charge, then programmed the detonation sequence. Set for 30 seconds after we enter the water. That should put enough distance between us and the blast. A flash of movement caught Rhea's eye. A reconnaissance drone, no larger than her palm, hovering at the edge of the cavern. She fired in one fluid motion, her disruptor bolt reducing the device to sparking components. They know we're here, she said, falling back to Brennan's position. No more time. They reached the water's edge as the first shots rang out, energy bolts sizzling past them to impact the cavern walls in showers of superheated stone. Rhea returned fire, her superior night vision allowing her to target the lead operatives despite the darkness. "Now!" Brennan shouted, diving into the black water. Rhea followed, her Cathbar physiology automatically adjusting to the aquatic environment. A membrane slid over her eyes, her nostrils sealed, and specialized gill-like structures along her ribcage activated to extract oxygen from the water. They swam with the powerful current, letting it sweep them into the narrow tunnel. Behind them, the detonation sequence began, a series of controlled explosions that sent shockwaves through the water and caused massive sections of the cavern ceiling to collapse. The roar was deafening, even underwater. Debris plunged into the river around them, creating a churning maelstrom of rock and sediment. Rhea's powerful limbs cut through the chaos, keeping pace with Brennan, who swam with surprising strength for a human. The tunnel seemed endless, the water growing colder and the current stronger as they progressed. Rhea knew Brennan couldn't breathe underwater as she could. His time was limited. Finally, the tunnel opened into another cavern, this one smaller, but illuminated by shafts of natural light from fissures in the ceiling. They surfaced, Brennan gasping for air as Rhea effortlessly pulled herself onto a rock shelf. "Impressive adaptation," Brennan managed between breaths. "Your species continues to amaze." "Save your oxygen," Rhea replied, scanning their surroundings. "Where's this relay station?" Brennan pointed to a metal structure half buried in the cavern wall, the remnants of early colonization efforts. Its surfaces corroded but intact. "The equipment inside is shielded against electromagnetic interference," he explained as they approached. "Ancient tech, but robust. If we can power it up, we can transmit directly to the Council's emergency frequency." Inside the station, dust covered abandoned consoles and equipment racks. Brennan moved with purpose to a central terminal, brushing away years of accumulated grime. "Power cells should still have residual charge," he muttered, more to himself than to Rhea. Backup systems were designed for decades of dormancy. Rhea took up a defensive position near the entrance, her senses stretched to their limits for any sign of pursuit. "How long?" "To initiate a transmission? 5 minutes. To upload the complete data package." He grimaced. 15, maybe 20. "We don't have 20 minutes, Rhea stated flatly. "The strike team will find alternative routes, and Cross will send reinforcements when the first team fails to report. Then we prioritize," Brennan said, working rapidly to bring the ancient systems online. "The core evidence first, followed by the technical specifications of Mindbridge. If we're cut off before completion, at least the Council will have enough to launch an investigation." The terminal hummed to life, displays flickering with the ghostly green text of outdated operating systems. Brennan inserted the data crystal, his fingers flying across the interface as he prepared the transmission. "I need a direct link to my neural implant to authenticate the data," he explained. "Council protocols require biometric verification for emergency sessions." He attached a cable from the terminal to a port behind his ear, a standard neural interface connection. His body went rigid for a moment as the connection established, his consciousness partially merging with the machine. "Connection established," he said, voice distant. "Beginning data transfer to Council emergency protocols." Rhea watched with fascination. Among her kind, such direct neural connections were viewed with suspicion, a vulnerability rather than an advantage. Yet here was this human, willingly connecting his mind to a machine to accomplish his mission. Her admiration was interrupted by a faint sound from outside, the whine of approaching aircraft. "We have company," she warned. "Aerial units, coming in fast." Brennan nodded without breaking his concentration. 15% transferred. Core evidence package complete. Moving to technical specifications." Rhea moved to the station's old sensor controls, activating what systems still functioned. The display showed 3 military-grade dropships descending toward the cavern entrance. Cross isn't taking chances, she observed. Those are Terran Special Forces ships. At least 30 troops per vessel. 30%, Brennan reported. Can you slow them down? Rhea checked her weapons and equipment. The disruptor had limited charges remaining, and her other tools were designed for hunting individuals, not repelling small armies. I'll need to improvise, she said, moving toward the exit. Keep transmitting. No matter what happens, complete that upload. Outside, she assessed the terrain. The relay station was positioned in a defensible location, a small plateau with limited approach vectors, surrounded by unstable rock formations. Tactically speaking, it was well chosen. The first dropship appeared over the ridge, its searchlight scanning the area in methodical patterns. Rhea retreated into shadows, her scales adapting to match the surrounding stone. She placed her remaining countermeasures at strategic points around the perimeter, programming them to activate on proximity. Then, using her disruptor at its lowest setting, she weakened key support points in the surrounding rock formations. The dropship landed 300 meters away, disgorging armored troops who moved with the precision of elites. Rhea recognized their formation, standard Terran sweep pattern, designed to clear and secure hostile territory. She waited until they crossed her first trigger point before detonating one of the plasma charges Brennan had given her. The explosion wasn't meant to kill, but to destabilize. A cascade of rock tumbled down, cutting off the most direct approach to the station. The soldiers adapted quickly, splitting into smaller units to navigate the newly created obstacle course. Rhea picked off the advanced scouts with precisely aimed disruptor shots, then relocated before their comrades could pinpoint her position. Inside the station, Brennan's voice came through her communicator. 50% complete. Maria Vasquez has acknowledged receipt and is securing council attention. The second dropship appeared, this one deploying troops on the opposite side. Rhea was being flanked, her options diminishing with each passing minute. 70%, Brennan updated. The council is convening an emergency session. Vasquez is presenting the initial evidence. Rhea triggered another countermeasure, creating false heat signatures that scattered across the battlefield. The soldiers fired at phantoms, wasting ammunition and revealing their own positions in the process. But they were professionals, quickly recognizing the deception. Their commander ordered a concentrated advance from all sides, using suppressing fire to limit Rhea's mobility. A shot grazed her shoulder, the energy bolt burning through scales and into flesh. Rhea hissed in pain, but maintained her position, returning fire with calculated precision. 85%, Brennan reported. Almost there. The third dropship hovered directly overhead, its bay doors opening to deploy repelling lines. Troops would descend directly onto the station's roof in seconds. Rhea made a decision. She triggered her final countermeasure, a massive electromagnetic pulse that would temporarily disable their equipment. It would affect the relay station too. But if Brennan was at 85%, they might have transmitted enough. The pulse rolled outward in an invisible wave. The soldiers' communications went dead. Their tactical displays flickered and died, and the hovering dropship wavered in the air as its systems temporarily failed. Rhea used the moment of confusion to race back to the station, arriving just as Brennan disconnected from the terminal. "Transmission complete," he announced, his face showing both exhaustion and triumph. "The full data package is in Vasquez's hands, and the council is viewing it live." "We need to move," Rhea urged, helping him to his feet. "That pulse won't hold them long." "There's a maintenance tunnel," Brennan directed, pointing to a narrow passage behind the equipment racks. "It leads to an auxiliary monitoring station 2 kilometers east. From there, we can reach my backup transport." They squeezed into the cramped passage just as the first soldiers breached the relay station. Shots rang out behind them, energy bolts impacting the tunnel walls as they crawled deeper into the mountain. The tunnel was barely wide enough for Brennan's shoulders, forcing them to move in single file through the darkness. Rhea took the lead, her night vision guiding them through the labyrinthine passage. "Even if they follow, They'll be bottlenecked, she observed. One at a time. Perfect targets. Cross won't waste more troops, Brennan replied. His breathing labored in the confined space. He'll switch tactics, probably bombardment from orbit. Wipe the entire area to destroy evidence. How much time? To get a capital ship in position? Maybe an hour. Less if he had one standing by. They emerged into another chamber. This one clearly artificial. A monitoring station for the planet's geological activity. Long abandoned, but structurally intact. Brennan moved to a communications console, activating emergency power. Let's see if we can listen in on military channels. The console crackled to life. Fragments of transmissions breaking through layers of interference. Orders being given. Coordinates exchanged. A countdown initiated. 30 minutes, Brennan translated grimly. They're bringing the hammer down sooner than I expected. Your backup transport? Rhea prompted. This way. He led her through a series of pressure doors to an underground hangar where a small, sleek vessel waited. An old survey ship, modified for stealth and speed. Will it fly? Rhea asked, inspecting the craft with professional interest. It'll fly, Brennan confirmed, initiating the startup sequence. And it has a few surprises Cross won't be expecting. They boarded quickly, Brennan taking the pilot's seat while Rhea manned the tactical station. The hangar doors above them began to cycle open, revealing a narrow shaft leading to the surface. Orbital bombardment will begin in 22 minutes. Brennan noted as the engines powered up. We need to be outside the blast radius and into FTL before then. The ship rose smoothly through the shaft, emerging onto the planet's surface as twilight deepened into night. Immediately, proximity alarms blared. The dropships had detected their emergence. Evasive maneuvers, Rhea advised, activating the ship's defensive systems. Brennan piloted with unexpected skill, the small craft darting and weaving through the planet's thick atmosphere as energy weapons lanced around them. The ship shuddered as glancing hits impacted their shields. Shields at 60%, Rhea reported. We need altitude for the FTL jump. Working on it, Brennan replied through gritted teeth, pushing the engines beyond recommended limits. The ship climbed steeply, accelerating toward the upper atmosphere. On the tactical display, Rhea watched as a massive Terran warship moved into position, a Dreadnought-class vessel, its weapon systems charging for planetary bombardment. Cross isn't taking any chances, she observed. That's enough firepower to glass the entire continent. And us with it, if we don't clear the gravity well in the next 7 minutes. Brennan adjusted their course, using the planet's magnetic field to mask their ascent. The smaller pursuit craft were falling behind, unable to match their acceleration. But the Dreadnought had detected them, its secondary batteries tracking their position. Incoming! Rhea warned as the tactical display blossomed with weapons locks. The space around them erupted with energy fire, a net of destruction meant to ensure nothing escaped the planet's atmosphere. Brennan's hands danced across the controls, finding impossible paths through the barrage. A direct hit rocked the ship, alarms blaring as systems failed across multiple decks. Shields critical, Rhea reported. One more hit like that and we're finished. Almost there, Brennan promised, pushing the damaged craft toward the jump point. Activating countermeasures. From the ship's belly, a cloud of sensor-confusing chaff deployed, creating dozens of false signatures identical to their own. The Dreadnought's fire scattered, targeting phantoms as their actual ship slipped through the net. FTL in 5, 4, 3. Brennan counted down as the stars above began to bend around them. 2, 1, jump. Reality twisted as the faster-than-light drive engaged, catapulting them into the safety of hyperspace moments before the Dreadnought unleashed its main batteries on the planet below. In the sudden quiet of FTL travel, Rhea slumped in her seat, the adrenaline of combat fading to leave exhaustion in its wake. Her shoulder wound throbbed, blood drying on her midnight scales. You're injured, Brennan observed, setting the autopilot before moving to examine her wound. It's minor, Rhea dismissed, though she didn't pull away when he retrieved a medical kit. Minor by Cathbar standards. Perhaps, he said, applying a regenerative gel to the burned tissue. For a human, this would be debilitating. Fortunately, I'm not human. She watched as he worked, his hands steady and confident. Where are we headed? Galactic Central, where the Council is based. Brennan secured a bandage over the wound. Vasquez has arranged protective custody. With the evidence we've transmitted, Cross is already being detained for questioning. You planned well, Rhea acknowledged. The challenges, the escape routes, the backup systems. Nothing left to chance. When you've been hunted as long as I have, you learn to think several moves ahead. He returned to the pilot's seat, checking their course. Though I admit, having you along improved our odds considerably. I still don't understand why you chose me, Rhea said. You could have continued running, found another way to expose Cross. Brennan was silent for a moment, considering his answer. Because sometimes you need a predator to catch a predator. Cross is exactly what you hunt. Dangerous, cunning, willing to do anything to survive. I needed someone who thinks like him but isn't like him. And that's me, Rhea's inner eyelids flicked with amusement. A moral predator. Precisely. His eyes met hers. You could have killed me a dozen times over. You could have taken Cross's doubled bounty. Instead, you listened, evaluated, and made your own decision. The ship hummed around them as they traveled through hyperspace. The blue shifted light, casting strange patterns across the cockpit. For the first time in her career, Rhea found herself without a contract, without a target, without a clear path forward. What happens when we reach Central? She asked finally. Testimonies, evidence reviews, political fallout. Brennan shrugged. The wheels of galactic justice turn slowly, but with Vasquez amplifying our story through media channels, Cross won't be able to bury this. And after that? The question surprised even her. Cathbar hunters didn't typically think beyond the current contract. Brennan studied her with those piercing blue eyes that had first assessed her as a potential ally rather than a threat. That depends, he said carefully, on what you want. The question lingered between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Rhea had never considered a life beyond the hunt. It defined her, shaped her every decision and instinct. Yet here she was, choosing to protect prey rather than capture it. I don't know, she admitted. Hunting is all I've known. Then perhaps it's time to hunt something different. Brennan's expression softened. There are always predators like Cross, powerful, dangerous individuals who believe themselves above consequences. The kind of targets that would challenge even your considerable skills. You're suggesting I become some kind of vigilante hunter? The concept was both foreign and intriguing. I'm suggesting you use your abilities for something more meaningful than bounties. He gestured to the stars, streaking past their viewports. The galaxy is full of beings who need protection from those who would prey upon them. The idea settled in Rhea's mind, taking root alongside another unfamiliar sensation, connection to another being not as predator to prey, but as equal to equal. And where would you be while I'm hunting these new targets? She asked, the question revealing more than she intended. Brennan's smile held warmth she hadn't noticed before. Wherever you need me to be, my skills complement yours. Planning, intelligence gathering, technical expertise. We made an effective team today. We did, Rhea agreed, surprising herself with the admission. The remainder of their journey passed in companionable silence, each processing the events that had brought them together and contemplating the path ahead. When they emerged from hyperspace near Galactic Central, a massive space station orbiting a nondescript star, communications channels immediately lit up with incoming transmissions. It's Vasquez, Brennan announced, putting the message on speaker. The Council has reviewed our evidence. Cross is in custody, and the Mind Bridge project has been shut down. They're expecting our testimony within the hour. Then we shouldn't keep them waiting, Rhea said, straightening in her seat as the station's docking guidance systems took control of their approach. The political aftermath unfolded with surprising swiftness. General Hadron Cross, faced with overwhelming evidence, attempted to justify Mindbridge as a necessary security measure in an increasingly unstable galaxy. The Council remained unconvinced, particularly when the full extent of his unauthorized experiments came to light. Maria Vasquez proved a formidable ally, her journalistic connections ensuring the story reached every corner of galactic space. Her sister Elena, one of Cross's early test subjects, who had accidentally died when the neural override proved too much for her system, received posthumous justice as Cross was sentenced to life imprisonment in a maximum security facility on a remote mining world. In the days that followed, Rhea and Brennan found themselves adrift in the aftermath of victory. The Council offered rewards, commendations, even positions within various security agencies. They declined all offers, preferring to maintain their independence. "What now?" Rhea asked, as they stood on an observation deck, watching ships arrive and depart from the bustling station. "I've been thinking about that," Brennan replied. "There's a planet in the Omega sector, uninhabited, resource-rich, perfect for a base of operations." "Operations for what?" "For hunting the kind of predators conventional authorities can't touch, the ones who hide behind power and influence." He turned to face her. "With your tracking skills and my technical expertise, we could make a difference." Rhea considered the proposal. The hunt had always been her life, but the prey had changed. No longer would she chase the desperate or the innocent. From now on, her targets would be those who truly deserved to be hunted. "A base requires funding," she observed practically. "I may have appropriated some of Cross's off-world accounts before exposing him," Brennan admitted with a small smile. "Enough to establish ourselves comfortably." "Clever human," Rhea said, her scales rippling with amusement. "Is that a yes?" Rhea extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement she had observed. "Yes, we hunt together." Brennan took her scaled hand in his, the touch lingering longer than strictly necessary for the formality. Something sparked between them, predator and prey no longer, but partners in a new kind of hunt. One standard month later, they stood on the surface of their new home, watching twin suns set over a pristine landscape of purple-hued vegetation and crystalline rock formations. Their base, a combination of Cathbar and human design elements, nestled into a mountainside overlooking a vast valley. "It needs a name," Brennan said as they surveyed their domain. Rhea considered, then offered a word from her native language. "Nareshka." "What does it mean?" "The place where the hunter rests between hunts," she translated. "Where strength is renewed and purpose remembered." Brennan nodded appreciatively. "Nareshka it is." As darkness fell, they retreated inside to their command center, where potential targets were already being analyzed. Corrupt officials, interstellar crime lords, corporate executives responsible for atrocities on distant worlds. The predators would become the prey, and Rhea would lead the hunt with Brennan at her side. For the first time in her life, Rhea Kethvar felt something beyond the thrill of the hunt. As she watched Brennan work, his features illuminated by the glow of data screens, she recognized the unfamiliar emotion taking root within her. Humans called it love, a concept Cathbar hunters were taught to dismiss as weakness. Yet as they built their new life together on this remote world, hunting the truly deserving, Rhea discovered it was anything but weak. It was a power unlike any she had known, transforming her most fundamental understanding of predator and prey. She had spent her life as the hunter who was never caught. Now, in the most unexpected turn of all, she found herself wanting to be caught, and already was.